Good brain warm-up exercises are hard to find, but the algorithm has just helped you discover an in-depth list of the best. Thank you, algorithm. The question is, what makes a mental warm-up routine good? Well, for one thing, it has to challenge your mind. In order to create an effect, each warm-up routine needs to produce at least a little bit of friction, positive friction that produces mental dexterity, new ideas, and personal growth. Sound good? Great, let's dive in. You've probably heard of the brain warm-up exercise where you list 10 alternative uses for an object before. Like if I show you a paperclip, you might suggest stringing enough of them together to create a ladder from here to the moon as your first alternative use. It's a great exercise that creates rapid benefits and it works with any object. But I'd suggest you go a step further. For example, if you're going to create a ladder to the moon using paperclips, why not also imagine a version of the moon composed entirely of paperclips? This is the alternative substance exercise that in some sense already exists. For years, people have been saying the moon is made of cheese, but paperclips? How about socks? Or ants? Or noodles? And then go a step further yet. What possible things could you use a moon made out of noodles for? Would you campaign the rich to donate spaceships and spacesuits so they could bring those noodles back to Earth to feed the poor? Whatever use you find for your random objects, figure out what links you've made between things, then change the substance of the thing being linked to into the original object and find at least a few alternative uses for that thing. And if you can't think of 10, don't sweat it, but keep coming back to it throughout the day for some mini creative exercise. I don't know about you, but I dream often. But instead of letting those dreams drift away, I go through phases where I use my dreams to engage in one of the strongest morning brain exercises I know. Here are the steps. Write down the dream or dream fragment you remember and ask what it reminds you of, the situation, the person, or the place. Then briefly journal on any emotions or concepts that arise. And you can also do exercises like this throughout the day with your daydreams. This is an activity Robert Langs discusses in full in his excellent Daydream workbook. When you notice yourself daydreaming, make a note of the nature of the dream and ask yourself similar questions. What memories come to mind surrounding that daydream? What emotions, longings, or fulfillments does the daydream suggest? Now, there doesn't have to be any particular outcome from this exercise. You're just going for the brain warm-up and using your dreams and daydreams to do it. And if you'd like to learn how to remember more of your dreams and many other things, memory is the main thing we talk about on this channel. So if you're new here, use your noodle and get subscribed for the love of memory and hit that thumbs up so the robots don't forget about how much we humans care about the great memory tradition. Now, the next exercise to warm up your brain is to take Roy G. Biv, the acronym for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Then list as quickly as you can the first emotion that comes to mind for each color. So for example, red equals anger, orange equals shame, yellow equals happy. And to take the exercise to the next level, find 3 to 5 alternative words for each emotion. In other words, mentally transform happiness into contentedness, comfort, mirth, cheer, elatedness, etc. And try to do it on your own before reaching for a thesaurus. Really exercise your brain. How many alternative words can you get for each emotion? Now, speaking of taking words and changing them into different things like emotions, you can do a lot of things with words, or you can even scale down into the alphabet. So either in your mind or using paper and pen, think of a name for each letter of the alphabet. For example, my name's Anthony, so A equals Anthony, B equals Bonnie, C equals Connie, etc. And you don't have to make them rhyme, but as I've just done, Anthony, Bonnie, Connie, that is in itself an exercise. Donnie, what would we come up for with the name E? Elon Musk or Elani, etc. This will stretch your mind even further. So you can go to F. Frank would become Francofani, etc. and try to get through the alphabet. A fun game to play with yourself, with other people, etc. to see how fast you can go through it. Now you can also go through the alphabet and name only objects. So you could think of apple, ball, car, etc. And if you want to take that to the next level, have a person that you name to interact with each object of that same letter. So for example, Al Pacino accepts an apple.
Whoa, what just happened?
I was just dancing with my Android and now I got a new phone. Now we got also a verb in there with that same letter, A. Al Pacino accepts an apple. Batman bounces a ball. Cookie Monster cooks a car, etc. Now sure, things might get weird. Weird? Brother, this is downright supernatural. Hooah! That's why the exercise wakes up your brain. And you can take this exercise even further if you want to learn something called the peg word method and link that to a PAO system, all of which I teach in the Magnetic Memory Method Masterclass. Now let's say you're doing the color emotion exercise that we talked about. You've discovered a word in the thesaurus and you want to remember to use it more often because you were cheating, right? You did reach for the thesaurus. No, I'm just kidding. You wouldn't cheat. Take the word wherever you found it and think about an image that comes to mind that will help you remember that. So let's say that you went from happy to elatedness. You could think about the L in elatedness and think of someone named Elaine, and then she's arriving late. Elaine, late, elated, elatedness. To take another example for mirth, you could think about frankincense and myrrh as mentioned in the Bible. Now for best results and an additional exercise, place these associations that you come up with for the words that you're adding to emotions to a memory palace. Place them, put them, associate them inside of a memory palace. There's many ways to think about how to fuse these images inside of memory palaces, and I think you're really going to love playing around with it because that in itself will improve your brain. Warm it up, literally wake it up from its slumber. Now how about this? Go back as far as you can in your life. For example, grade 1 or 2. Think of a book that you loved during that year, or at least a book you can remember reading, if you were so blessed to be reading that young. For me, I remember a book in kindergarten or grade 1. I'm pretty sure it was kindergarten though, and it involved teddy bears falling off the bookshelf they lived in. And those teddy bears fell onto a map that was spread on the floor, and it distributed them all around the world, and they had to find their way back to the bookshelf from disparate lands. The next book I distinctly remember is Where the Red Fern Grows. Now that's all the way up to grade 4. There's sort of like this blank space where I can't really pin it to the exact grade or even the near grade. Don't worry if you have to skip entire grades yourself when you're doing this exercise. And don't worry too much about accuracy. The point is to wake up your brain by doing the exercise, and just do your best to proceed as much as you can on a year-by-year basis. And you can also just go year by year, if you haven't been in school for a very long time, backwards. So what is the book you most recently remember reading in 2022? And then what is a major book that you remember reading in 2021? And then back to 2020, etc. And this is just a quick little warm-up exercise that uses yearly progression and books to help you just have something that gets your associations going and gets your memory and recall going. Now, as an alternative, you don't have to use books. You could use movies and try to match the year or grade you were in when you saw those movies. It could be a popular song on the radio, what have you. Just let your imagination go wild, mix and match, and follow the general theme of specific year or specific grade and specific thing that would have appeared in that year in your life, and try to follow it sequentially to exercise and wake up the sequential part of your brain. Or how about taking a movie that you know? Then take the last letter in the name of the movie and use it to name another movie. So for example, if you think of Aliens, then your next movie should start with S, such as Superman. Then you would think of one that starts with N, because Superman ends with the letter N. This exercise can get challenging fast and be quite repetitious, but push through and see how far you get. Try to name at least 10 titles before you stop. And as an alternative, you can use book titles, names of people you know, celebrities, etc. And you can play with a partner or multiple people and see how fast you can go going around, switching turns, or around a circle. It's a lot of fun. And for an additional challenge, you can try to memorize the different titles that come out in the order that they come out, and then recall them. And whoever can recall them all correctly in order wins some sort of prize or what have you. Maybe you buy them a drink or whatever, but a memory-friendly drink, of course. Unlike the exercise where you name as many possible uses for an object that you can think of, such as having paper clips extend to the moon, the goal of this next exercise is to think of mixing two objects together. For example, imagine mixing cherry juice with mustard, or attaching a chainsaw to a car? Or how about an airplane that shoots spider webs? See if you can get 10 combinations of 10 objects together. You can also take this to the next level by getting actual objects together on a table and trying to combine them. So for example, you can play around with combining a fork, a string, some coins, a salt shaker, etc. So you take a simple object and you start to combine it with another one. So for example, you could tie a string around a coin and use that as a swinging mallet to make a dinner bell out of a salt shaker. By taking it out of the realm of ideas and actually doing it in the world, you're going to then exercise more of your body, which then exercises more of your brain and wakes more of it up. And this is a fun group activity to do, especially with kids. Now imagine Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, but instead of having a dog named Toto, imagine that Dorothy's pet is Scooby-Doo. Then imagine how Scooby-Doo would fit into the basket on Dorothy's bike. Now think about how Scooby-Doo would react when meeting the Wicked Witch for the first time. Right? To continue with this sort of creative warm-up exercise, you can just have a number of movie and story titles on slips of paper, mix them around and mishmash a few of them together, and then think of the scenarios and what they would be like with the character swaps in place. So for some more examples, you could have James Bond in a battle against Kermit the Frog, Rambo taking on the Death Star in Star Wars, Sherlock Holmes in The Firm instead of Tom Cruise. Just grab a few novels or comic books and think of the mix and match ways that you could create new and unusual combinations. And if you like, you can just sit there and play through as long of the scenarios as you want, trying to develop stories and scenarios that would happen if those things were mixed and matched. And in some sense, this is how new stories emerge. But in this case, we're just using it as a brain warm-up exercise, and you can certainly spend more time on it, and who knows, you might be the next person who writes an incredible novel. And in some sense, this is what I did with my forthcoming detective novel, which is coming soon. So if you are interested in playing a game based on this novel, and you want to read the novel and see how I mixed and matched a bunch of existing story elements, then make sure to go to magneticmemorymethod.com/NS, which stands for novel sample. magneticmemorymethod.com/NS. The launch is coming as soon as possible, and I hope that you enjoy how I played this exercise myself to the extent that I wound up writing an entire new story. And yes, there's a little bit of Sherlock Holmes involved. Now, how about this exercise? One of the most ice-cold mental situations people face comes from problems like PTSD and depression. Yet, as Nick Castle found, a former police officer, he was able to reduce his symptoms by using a Mary Palace. It's not just his anecdotal experience either. Dr. Dalgleish and his co-researchers have found exactly these results in their clinical trials. But you don't have to suffer in order to benefit from using those techniques in order to warm your brain up. All you have to do is have at least one memory palace and use it to memorize something like a simple mantra or a number of names or book titles, and then you enter your memory palace first thing in the morning, recite whatever you've memorized, and then exit the memory palace feeling warmed up. But if you do have some of those issues, what Dr. Dalglish's research found is that if you use a memory palace to place happy memories along a journey and you visit those memories and you trigger off that happiness, you can reduce those symptoms very, very quickly. And I've played around with this and it really, really works. And I have some of those issues and it's been tremendously rewarding. So if you get into this practice, you can memorize all kinds of things. You could memorize playing cards, for example, as a quick warm-up using a memory palace. And sometimes I do this before applying memory techniques to, say, language learning or some heavy concepts from books. I just warm up and away we go. So easy memory task, then larger, harder memory task, using the Memory Palace technique and a lot of these fun associations. So with thanks as always to our channel members and everyone who has one of my books or courses, if you like this video, make sure to support our mission to remind the robots that humans still care about brain warm-up exercises like these. Go ahead and get subscribed if you're not already. And if you want these robots to chase you down with pure love for this wonderful memory and brain training tradition, make sure to enable notifications. And that'll help Team Magnetic and I keep bringing you powerful routines like this one. Imagine being able to solve mathematical equations within seconds. one of the things you can do is learn a very simple system, but one that will challenge you to learn so that you can see its simplicity. And this is called the Trachtenberg Method. Now, although learning itself may be a brain warm-up that's a little more intense than you want, I really have had a lot of fun myself picking it up. And you can learn it for addition, multiplication, division, and even squaring and algebraic manipulation. I haven't gotten that far, but you can enjoy where I've gotten with it so far by reading my blog. I'll have a post for you to the link where I've written about it down below in the description. And researchers have found that students who journaled for 10 minutes about their emotions scored better on their exams. Imagine that for a brain warm-up. It's just to spend a little bit of time and get an A instead of a B+ because you wrote about how you feel. Now, researchers also found that if participants focused on their breathing while journaling, they did even better. And the catch with this study is that it was useful for students with anxiety. Now, having dealt with anxiety myself and having used journaling, I found that this approach is very, very excellent for getting my own life in order and getting my brain warmed up. But I don't see why it wouldn't help anyone, even if they don't have anxiety themselves. So give it a try. It's really, really fun, and journaling has many, many other benefits too. And as you can see, there are so many routines you can follow, and you can put them all together and journal about all of them. So if you were to journal about the Trachtenberg method, for example, even if you start off on a kind of down note, like, oh man, this is so hard, if you were to journal about that, focus on your breathing while you're journaling, you might go, hey, you know what? It's not that hard, I can get back into it. And that's exactly what I had to do, quite frankly, because it is challenging. And I missed the opportunity to have a brain warm-up that I then was able to save and get back and resuscitate and enjoy. And I've been using it a little bit, and it's just super rewarding, but I would have missed it if I didn't know these techniques, these ways of warming up your brain so that you just accept reality for what it is and get busy and get it done. And you know, we're just scratching the surface. So if you find that you like these brain warm-up routines, there's so many more things that you can do. So make sure that you have the free course on my site. You can get it at magneticmemorymethod.com/YT. It will take you through how to develop the memory palace technique we talked about today and how you can use it throughout your day to keep your brain sharp on demand. And the best part is it will help you remember the different brain warm-up routines that we discussed today. So give it a try, and just shout out if you have any questions along the way. I'll get back to you ASAP. Thanks again, and until we speak again, keep yourself magnetic.
Hooah, brother! My mind is feeling warmed up, but I remember you had a link to a video where you would fry my mind with a brain exercise. Give me that link again, brother, so I can go and get my mind from warm to hot. Hooah!
Thank you, algorithm.